In the center of Moscow's expanding financial district, investors called it the future of Russian commercial architecture. Government officials quietly called it a symbol of national progress. And the man responsible for making sure it didn't fail was Chief Structural Engineer Sergei Volkov. Sergei had built his reputation over 3 decades. He believed in reinforced concrete, high-grade steel, and strict calculations. In his world, structures survived because they were predictable. Moscow winters were brutal. Snow loads crushed weak roofs. Icy winds carved through skyscrapers at terrifying speeds. There was no room for experimental ideas. When the international design proposals arrived, most followed familiar formulas: steel frames, concrete cores, traditional systems. But one submission stood out. It came from Manila, sent by a young Filipino structural architect named Miguel Reyes. And most controversially, an upper structural system using advanced engineered bamboo composite panels. When Sergei reached that page, he stopped reading. At the design review meeting, he didn't hide his reaction. "Bamboo?" he said, his voice steady but cold. "We are building in Moscow, not a tropical resort." It was laminated, compressed, chemically treated composite material. Lighter than steel by weight. Exceptionally strong under tension. Flexible under wind stress. Fire-tested. Certified under international safety standards. Sergei listened. Then he closed the folder. "This project will use proven Russian methods," he said. Construction began using traditional materials. But within months, problems surfaced. Steel prices surged due to international supply restrictions. Shipping delays pushed timelines back. Investors demanded solutions. In a tense board meeting, financial projections flashed red across a large screen. Cost overruns were approaching dangerous territory. One of the analysts quietly spoke up. "There was an alternative proposal," she said. "A hybrid material option." The room went silent. Sergei didn't respond immediately. Pride is a heavy thing to carry, especially when millions of dollars are involved. That night, alone in his office overlooking the frozen Moscow River, he reopened Miguel's blueprint. This time, he studied every calculation. Load distribution models were detailed. Wind tunnel simulations showed the flexible composite upper levels actually reduced stress transfer to the core during extreme gusts. The lighter weight reduced foundation pressure by nearly 18%. Construction time projections were significantly shorter due to modular fabrication. Sergei requested independent testing from a Russian materials laboratory. Weeks later, the results arrived. The composite panels exceeded minimum structural strength requirements. Fire resistance met European high-rise safety standards. Cold weather durability tests showed no structural degradation. The material wasn't weak. It was different. And it worked. For the first time in years, Sergei felt something unfamiliar: doubt. He contacted Miguel. "I need you in Moscow," he said simply. When Miguel arrived, winter still gripped the city. The two engineers spent days reviewing models, recalculating for local climate variables, adjusting the hybrid system to fit Russian codes. It wasn't about pride anymore. It was about solutions. At the next board meeting, Sergei stood before investors. "We are modifying the structural plan," he announced. "A hybrid system will be implemented for the upper 20 floors. It reduces projected costs by 15% and accelerates completion by 4 months." Then approval. Construction resumed under the revised design. The lighter materials required fewer heavy lifts. Wind performance exceeded expectations during seasonal storms. Engineers from other firms began visiting the site out of curiosity. When the 60-story building was finally completed, it stood sleek and modern against the Moscow skyline. But what truly shocked the construction world wasn't its height or its appearance. It was the performance report released months later. Energy efficiency improved, due to thermal properties of the composite materials. Maintenance costs were projected lower than comparable steel-only structures. Structural monitoring during extreme winter storms showed exceptional stability. International architecture and engineering journals began writing about the project. Not because it was Russian, not because it used bamboo composite, but because it proved something larger. Innovation does not belong to one climate, one tradition, or one country. At the grand opening ceremony, cameras flashed as investors celebrated the success. Sergei stood beside Miguel on the stage. In front of the press, Sergei spoke clearly. "Engineering is not about ego," he said. "It is about evidence. The strongest structures are built when we are willing to learn." The applause that followed was not just for the building. It was for the decision to rethink. Because sometimes what shocks the construction world is not a rejection. It's the courage to admit you were wrong and build something better.